It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Friday, March 10th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful and amazing Friday? We've got current news from around the world, Until the End segment on mental health with Daniel Baker, and of course we have Netflix Episode 3 breakdown. Oh, all right, everyone, how are you doing today? It is Friday, and yes, the weekend is here. I'm sure all of you getting ready to enjoy, and I hope you guys are looking forward to some fun relaxation, realizations, whatever it is, new direction through the Sunday message. But let's get things kicked off here together on the Morning Star Drive. So everyone, keep liking, keep commenting. If anything, what we want to do here is build the community. So I want to hear from you guys, see how you're doing. Post your song requests, questions, and stories too. Would love to hear from you guys, all right? So it's Friday. Excuse me. I'm happy the weekend is here. And I hope that everyone is, we've gone through our first week of the Netflix premiere. And I hope that we realize more and more, of course, that as this goes on, as time goes on, a lot of it's going to dissipate, right? Like all the fanfare and all the hoopla will dissipate with time. It's Netflix, and Netflix is not looking, they don't have really a religious agenda. They're just looking to find what's the next biggest thing. And of course, I'm sure all over every different country, you're going to have Netflix in your top 10 for shows, but it's not going to be there for long. Like I'd say give it 2 weeks max, and then soon it'll be off the top 10. It'll be yesterday's news. It'll still remain there. Excuse me. But I do think it is something that we need to be prepared at all times, because if it's a Netflix original and it's always there no matter what, and even though it's not popular, eventually people could look at it again. And it's something that we should look at and say, hey, all right, so this is what came out. What do we know about this? What is true? What is not true? And I think this is part of why I do the breakdowns. So people are not going to just kind of blindly go in and they're not even sure what is true and what isn't, and what is fact and what is fiction, right? And that's why I'm hoping to go in with a lawyer's mind. What is actual evidence, like real, true evidence? And if there's no real, true evidence, it's very, very hard for us to even speculate on anything, right? And that's why I look at it from this perspective. If this was my best friend, let's just say it's my best friend, and someone says something bad about them, I think it'd be very weird to have a best friend, and then if a couple of people start to accuse them, I'm going to all of a sudden jump to the other side. Like, the people accusing have to prove it, right? Beyond a reasonable doubt. They need to really prove it. And once they really prove it, then you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe this person did this, right? But, when nothing is proven and it's all conjecture and it's all speculation and it's all what, he said, she said, in the end, I'll stick with the person that I know the best until proven otherwise. And at this point here, of course, this is even much stronger than that. Yeah, you got to find something super compelling to the point you're like, oh my goodness, this is crazy kind of thing, right? So we're going to get into that when it comes to the episode 3 breakdown. So today we're going to do a little bit a change in the scheduling. Not the scheduling, but like the order. So usually we do Until the End podcast at the very, very end, but we'll do that in the word study section, and then we'll do the Netflix episode 3, just so it's easy for people. We can just tell them like, hey, if you haven't heard the breakdowns, go to Tuesday, Thursday, Friday of last week, and it's the last segment. And I want to make sure it's always the last segment so people can find it easily. So that's why we'll do Until the End third, and then last one will be the episode 3 breakdown, all right? Also tomorrow, which is Saturday, just remember we have new music videos coming out every Saturday. So if you have, and there don't have to be like a real music video, like Dr. Zinni did an amazing job with hers. Because it's a real music video, right? But you could do a lyric video too. Like you put your music on, put it onto like, just a background and just have the lyrics going through so people can read the lyrics and sing along with it. That is something that I do think is another way to do it. So if any of you guys have time for that too, you guys can go ahead and make those lyric videos and send them to me, and I'll definitely be able to post them up every Saturday. Okay? So big shout out to all the people out there that have been reaching out to me. And because, there's like a lot of people reaching out to me, they want to talk. They just want to, and a lot of people are the good thing I like is people are not coming in with like any bias on one side or the other. And I like that, where they're saying like, hey, I'm confused. I'm not sure why this is happening like this. So it's not coming in negative and it's not coming in positive. They're just not sure. And I think that's actually the best stance to come in on. I don't even think it's, I don't think it's good to come in a very negative, and I don't think it's, I'll tell you why I don't think it's very good to come in as a super on the Providence side either. Because if you're too extreme on either side, you won't listen to the other parts. And if you're like even on the good side, if you're like, or like the side you're saying, oh my gosh, I only believe in this history, nothing else. Oh, nothing will change me, which I think is not a bad stance when it comes to your faith wise, but in that case, you might lose out on the explanations, and you might just, you might be explaining to people or telling people exactly the way that you explain it. As no, I believe in this, and that's not really a real reason, right? We want to be at a level where we're very reasonable and logical. We will admit the mistakes that we made, right? And we will be those that will be able to tell people, yeah, this is what the mistakes we made. This is true, and it's our mistake. And on this half, it's like this, we can tell both sides. So we don't want, I prefer to be neutral when coming in, right? I don't like, why have I come to this? Oh, I wasted all my life. And it's like, well, that means you've already judged the situation when it's actually impossible to judge it. It really is, right? So if anything, I do think I'm very, very grateful, thankful to the many people that have reached out to me. We've had very, very good open talks. People are able to express everything that they want to say. Very thankful for all of you guys reached out to me. Those that are listening to the summaries of the Netflix documentaries. And, there's some people that don't want to listen to it, don't want to see it, don't want those images in their head, yet they still want to know what's inside the documentary and stuff like that too, because that's going to be the only way that we're going to be able to help and explain to other people what each and every part is about, right? So today will be the last episode, and something that I am really, really thankful to be able to do for everyone. And I know it's not an easy subject, and some of you may not even want to listen to it, and that's fine too, because no one should be forced to listen, and no one should be forced not to listen, right? We should be self-aware, know ourselves well, and if we're self-aware, then we'll watch it if we want to watch it. We'll be ready to watch it. We won't be affected emotionally, right? But we'll be those that take a look at it, it's like, oh, okay, so this is what this is about, right? But I do feel it's very good for all of us to know at some point in the early future, we should know the content and understand why people are so influenced by it. Like even members are influenced by it. Personally, from the knowledge that I know of the trials in the past and the 4 different times that Sunstein has been accused, because I have the content and the understanding of those things, my main thing is the biggest reason why people are influenced is because of a lack of knowledge. They just don't know like all the information out there, and because of that, they'll hear something and they'll freak out because like, oh, I didn't know that. What are they hiding from us, kind of thing. But a lot of it is already out there. You can, it's very transparent with the court orders, with the findings. All that is open. And that's why you can find many people who have looked into it. Oh, this is what happened at that time. Oh, okay. So even for me, I've had many people just reach out and talk and chat, and I'll explain to them my side of it, right? And my side basically meaning what is true about the documentary by evidence, not by feeling, by evidence, right? Feelings are going to hurt people. Feelings change with time. And I do think we need to move away from the feeling part of it, right? It's more of what is the facts? What is the evidence first before anything else? Yeah, once you base it on feelings change every day, every moment, right? And truth is the one thing remains. And that's why in the end, it's like, yeah, heaven and earth may pass, but the words will never pass, right? So one thing I do want everyone to know is, whoever's listening, I never talk bad about accusers. Never. Yeah, I don't. I think that's very unnecessary. Of course, I don't curse. I don't cuss or say anything like that. I think it's very immature to attack the people, right? I think it's more mature to look at evidence and look at what is true and what is false, right? And obviously, some things we will never know if it's true or false because it's going to be one person's word against the other. And, I do think that from that point on, we do need to discern properly and well. But like I said, I don't want to talk bad about anyone. I think that's the wrong thing to do. right? And let me give you one of the reasons. If you ever talk bad about someone, but what if they come back? It's possible, right? What if they come back? Then you've said those things against them. Like, why would you say that? Then it's kind of like, oh man, I can't believe I said that about that person. Yeah, the words are going to remain. Our words will remain too. And I don't think it's a good idea to talk bad about people. That's why I prefer, like, when you listen to my summaries, it's all about evidence. It really is. It's about what is true. Were these charges true? Were they dropped? What happened with when they went to the hospital? This is what happened here, and you'll see that you'll see that very much in the episode 1, episode 2 breakdowns. And and I hope that this is the way that we can talk to each other and be honest, right? Yeah, I think that honesty, transparency is going to be a very, very big thing. Yeah, and I think in the end we just want the facts. How do people feel? Yeah, that makes a difference. It does make a difference. Yeah, of course, how people feel is important. But when it comes to something like this, like did someone do it or not, it doesn't matter what I feel about if they did it or not. What matters is what is true, right? So that's why I do think we have to be very clear, not emotional when we talk about this type of thing. It just really be understanding of all the different things that we have, right? And like I said to everyone too, if you guys are out there, my door is always open to talk. Yeah, there are some things that are still, we're not sure about it yet. Some things are uncertain. Some things people might be confused about. And I'll tell you straight out, I can't give you the answer to everything. I don't have all the answers. But I can talk about the things that I know. And, so far when I've talked to people, we just hash it out. They say everything. I talk about certain things, and we hash it out step by step so that people are like, oh, okay, I get that part now. Oh, there's where the misunderstandings are, what parts of the documentary or what things are misunderstandings and stuff like that too. So I am very open to talking to anyone on any side. Whether you believe the rumors or not, it makes no difference to me. I have nothing against anyone who believes them. Yeah, I don't. So yeah, we'll get through that in the episode 3 breakdown, which a lot of people said it was the worst one. I thought number 2 was worse for me because of when I saw the members' actions, but episode 3 is another breakdown. And, I'll give you overall, after the breakdown, I'll give you an overall sense of what I felt and my opinion on the documentary as a whole, from someone coming with a lawyer mindset of how much is actually, real evidence and stuff. And I'll come from someone who has I don't know what the right word, like the educated standpoint of a member. Educated meaning like someone who understands the trials from the past, what has happened until now, which charges are dropped, which charges had false information, and all that different stuff like that too. So I do hope that we will I do hope that everyone will be very understanding to both sides, because there's always a reason for someone to believe, and it's okay. Yeah, there's no need to feel good or bad or whatever it is, like, oh, I never believed. No, everyone, we're here to help each other. We're here to make sure that all of us become those that are strong for each other, and we're all going to have our difficult times. All right? So let's get into some music from some member artists from around the world. And we're going to start off with Zeniac from PMA in Korea, and this song is called Star Launcher. And then we'll get into Kiro Black and Julius from Australia with Inside My Head, one of my favorite songs. And of course, we have Kuma-chung from Japan with Song for Fathers featuring R.A.
Of space and time, welcome back and stay for a new language of eternity. A golden mega structure built, you put all the worlds, let there be light in a moment of a celestial miracle. See fired from the temple you missed for so long. Collisions occur greatly from now on. Get ready for a rendezvous. I see the blue shifted light from you in a moment of a celestial miracle. Do you recognize me? You've waited for me. I'm right here. I remember you calling my name. Time for me to say nice to see again. The day has come at last. It is not a dream. A decade could never
that was Kumachang from Japan with the Song for Fathers featuring R.A. Before that, Kiro Black and Julius from Australia with Inside My Head. And of course, that first song, feature artist of the day, that's Zeniac from PMA in Korea with Star Launcher. All right, so let's get into some news going on around the world. And as brides of this history, we really, really have to understand the power of prayer of the brides and how much God listens to us. And we really need to pray for the world. And we need to pray for and repent for the world too. So in order to do all this, we really need to know what's going on. So let's start off first. Top 3 news, we'll start off with the Russian war, right? The Ukraine war. So what just recently happened was there were Russian airstrikes with hitting cities across the country. So Russia has launched missiles at targets across Ukraine, from Kharkiv in the north to Odessa in the south and Zhytomyr in the west. Residential buildings, infrastructure were hit in Kharkiv and Odessa, and there are power blackouts in several areas. The strikes come as bitter ground fighting continues for the city of Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine. A U.S. intelligence chief has suggested the war may grind out for years. So Russian President Vladimir Putin launched his invasion just over a year ago, and since then, tens of thousands of combatants and civilians have been killed or injured, and millions of Ukrainians have become refugees. A mass missile strike struck an energy facility in the port of Odessa, triggering power cuts. Its governor said, and residential areas were also hit, but no casualties were reported. They said there were about 15 strikes that hit Kharkiv city and the region, with critical infrastructure facilities and a residential building targeted. And this comes from the regional administration chief. So that is really sad news. I really hope to God it doesn't, this doesn't go on for years, because that's crazy. That's just it's like ruining the country itself. And then it's almost like the feeling is Russia's like, if we can't have it, then no one can have it. They're just going to ruin everything about the country. So yeah, that's something we do need to pray for. We got to pray for a quick ending to that war too. In other news, Australia to buy as many as 5 nuclear subs from the U.S. Submarines are part of the AUKUS Pact with the UK, which may also jointly develop a vessel with Australia. Australia is expected to announce it will buy as many as 5 U.S. Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarines in the 2030s as part of a landmark Pacific Security Pact with the U.S. and the UK. Under the so-called AUKUS agreement, at least one U.S. submarine will visit Australian ports in the coming years, and by the late 2030s, a new class of submarines will be built with UK designs and US technology. One of the officials told the Reuters news agency. Australian PM Anthony Albanese is due to meet US President Joe Biden and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in San Diego on Monday to reveal AUKUS's next steps. The Pacific Security Pact, first announced in September 2021, and which is also expected to include collaboration on hypersonic missiles, artificial intelligence, and cyber warfare, is seen as an attempt to counter China's growing might and assertive positioning in the region, and has drawn condemnation from Beijing. Two of the officials, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said that after the annual port visits, the U.S. would deploy some submarines in Western Australia by about 2027. So a lot of things are happening, and I do think that we're going to have to be very, very careful with all the different things, praying for this. That's how careful we have to be, that it's going to be something that more secures the region more than incites a war. Last but not least, we're going to go to Georgia. And there's protests taking place in Georgia, not Georgia the state in America. We're going to take a look at Georgia the country. I believe it's like Eastern European. So why are there protests taking place in Georgia? Well, there's a foreign agent bill reminiscent of a controversial law passed in Russia and has triggered protests in Tbilisi. Thousands of people have taken to the streets of Georgia's capital, Tbilisi, for a second consecutive day to protest against a controversial foreign agents draft law. The latest demonstration on Wednesday came a day after the bill was passed in a first reading in Parliament. At least 66 people were arrested on Tuesday evening as protests against the proposed legislation turned violent. The draft law on transparency of foreign influence officially targets the disclosure of money flows from abroad, but critics feared it was a way for the government to crack down on opposing voices. So the proposed legislation stipulates that organizations such as media outlets could be classified as foreign agents if they receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad. Critics have pointed to a similar law passed in Russia, where all organizations or individuals receiving financial support from abroad or under some form of foreign influence are declared foreign agents. The law was likely to stifle press freedom in a country where a large share of the media is controlled by the government. So That is something, people are rising all over the world. And I really hope that we understand that, we got to understand the spiritual symbolism of all this thing going on, protesting, going against the government, wars breaking out, pacts being made, allies being made, alliances being made and such. And I do really believe that's something we need to pray about and ask God, what does that mean for us here in this history? All right. So there's the top 3 news. Hope it helps you guys out with your prayer topics when it comes to praying and repenting for the world. Let's move into some sporting news. In soccer, UEFA Champions League, Tottenham Spurs crash out of the Champions League last 16 stage on Wednesday as they have a 0-0 draw with AC Milan. The Spurs needed to overturn a 1-0 first leg deficit but lost by that score on aggregate after an insipid display at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in which they mustered just 2 targets on net. In other news, Bayern Munich booked their place in the Champions League quarterfinals as they defeated PSG 2-0. So now PSG is out of that tournament too. In NBA news, Colorado police say there are no charges for Ja Morant, but the Grizz star is to remain out for at least another 4 games. So that is not good news for the Grizzlies, who are in a playoff hunt. And of course, New Orleans Pelicans, Zion Williamson, hamstring injury, is out at least another 2 weeks. So he's been out since January. So this is a really major hamstring injury, and it kind of makes people think that he's massively injury prone. So let's just hope and see what happens here. Last but not least, let's get into MMA, mixed martial arts. John Jones, new heavyweight champion. He's going to be fighting Stipe Miocic in a potential heavyweight title fight. And already, the bets are out. And according to the sportsbook at DraftKings, Jones is more than a 3-1 favorite to beat Miocic in a potential fight. So that should be quite interesting. Miocic is the longest standing heavyweight ever. So let's see what happens there. I'm looking forward to that also. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the news from around the world and, of course, sporting news. But you know what that means. It is the golden time. And yes, this is the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. Hope all of you guys are looking forward to giving glory to God and the Holy Spirit. So, what are we going to praise and worship today? We're going to start off with Catching Light. And then after that, the place where the Lord dwells, and we'll break things down with Thanksgiving of Love. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly. Like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action. Those who are swift gain victory, those who are swift succeed. They wipe out Satan's and win, they wipe them out for good. One with the Trinity, rise, make yourself spiritual. And with the Spirit, take action spiritually. Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly. Like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action. Jehovah sent us our Lord so we could learn from Him. Let's learn from Him about God. He'll teach us properly. Let's learn ahead of time now, 'cause if we are prepared, no matter what, we can take action instantly. Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly. Like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action. Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly. like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action. Let's take action quickly. Let's take action brilliantly, like we are catching light with thoughts of the Spirit, which surpass the speed of light. We should discern at once and take action, 'cause those who take action, they alone will see results. So let's take action fast, like the eagles above us, or like cheetahs on the earth. We can discern at once and take action. We've learned from Jehovah, if we act on what we've learned, we can be fast like God. Let's make our head the Savior and discuss our plans with Him. We can discern at once and take action.
So full of love, I call upon your name, my Lord. Right now, I just want to be right next to you. With a heart that is so full of praise, I have come to finally realize, my Lord, you're surely in this place, always until the end. Your promise that you'd be with us until the end of time. Oh my Lord, you never have forgotten us. You are by our side and bless us endlessly. Lord, you are always there. Please accept just want to live with you. When we think of the way you're always here running with us, we're so grateful, Lord, and we just can't forget. You're in this church of peace and love abounding. I'm rejoicing in this heaven on the earth, with my heart set firmly on that world of gold. I will keep my faith and glorify your name. Lord, you are always there. Please accept our praise. I am so in love, I just want to live with you. When I think of the way you're always here running with us, I'm so grateful, Lord, and I just can't shepherd of my life. Oh my Lord, I am lacking, so I plead. Teach me, please. Lord, you are always there. Please accept our praise. I am so in love, I just want to live with you. When I think of the way you're always here running with us, I'm so grateful, Lord, and I just can't forget. Lord, you are my bridegroom. Please receive my love. I just want to live with you in the world of gold. I will bear many fruits of love and fruits of thanksgiving, and together make this history of life. And together make this history of life. Give thanks with joy. Pray and converse without end. In the past, Almighty God, Holy Spirit, omniscient, omnipotent, in their perfect love, they were by our side, always helping. In their grace they saved us from a life of death, and they helped us countless times. They saved our lives, they poured out their love. So we give glory and thanks.
And that was Thanksgiving of Love. Before that, The Place Where the Lord Dwells, and of course, Catching Light. So now that our hearts are made ready through that time of praise and worship, we do have a little different ordering of schedule today, and the word study will be put at the very end. Of course, that's the episode 3 of Netflix. So what we're going to do first is we're going to get into Until the End mental health podcast. And Daniel has researched and done a lot for this new subject on reading and how important it is to read, okay? And I've read some research on this too, and it's really amazing that we should be reading all the time. And this is why the most successful people are reading like a book a week. That's how much they read. So I hope it's something that all of us will be able to put into one of our habits, but love it. He's just doing such an amazing job. Everyone, please welcome Daniel Baker over there in Korea with Until the End.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Do It Until the End podcast. Now, right now is a very interesting time. I wouldn't say it's a good time, but you know, what we need to do is very clear. What we need to do right now is to really focus on the Trinity and Jesus. That's the thing we need to do. And right now it's so shaky. There's a lot of things that even myself I want to overthink, and that's the worst thing that you could do right now. Overthink. If you overthink about this situation and you think more, then something's bad's going to happen. Your faith is going to shake a little bit. You're going to have some issues with your faith, and it's not going to be a good time if you overthink. So today I want to talk about something that I use really well within these past couple weeks to really cut down my extra thoughts, cut down the time I have by myself. So I'm in a situation that I live by myself. I work. Before I go to work, I'm by myself. After work, I'm by myself. So, and you might be in this situation too. But the best way to not overthink or go too deep into your thoughts is to work, is to keep your brain, active and occupied. If you keep your brain occupied with something very good, with what today's topic is going to be about, then you're going to have no issues really focusing on the things you need to do in life, but also improve at the same time. So today we're going to talk about reading, the importance of reading. Now, I said that right now is the time to not overthink, right? Now, that's the best way I'm using reading right now. When I have free time or spare time, I'm constantly reading. Even though it might not be much because I'm a very slow reader, but constantly reading keeps my mind off, this whole situation, because, it's kind of weird being a leader. You're getting so much information. It sometimes feels a little bit overwhelming, and a good way to get away from that and not focus on the topic is to read. Reading is very important because of one reason. Other types of media like YouTube, movies, it demands your attention, and it feeds you attention, and you don't need to work for the information, right? But for reading's very hard. People now want everything easy, and it's a soft world. But getting your information from reading is it's difficult because you have to focus. You have to physically focus by moving your eyes and gathering the information and processing, making your brain actually work. So by reading, you're able to process the information better. Then let's say you had one topic. So, okay, I'm gonna research about this topic on YouTube. I'm probably going to get like a 30-minute YouTube. I'm probably going to listen to it. I might learn some facts, but because I didn't actually do the work to process it, it's going to be difficult for me to actually have some, for me to use it like down like 6 months later. That information is not going to stick with me because I didn't actually process it physically the hard way. But let's say I read about that. I was very curious about singing once, and I read about how to sing. And there's something called I think it's like the it's like the chopji in like Korean, and it's like a part of your throat that you need to use really well when you sing. And I was able to read about that, and compared to watching those YouTube videos, I was able to gather and gain and keep that information longer because I read it. So yeah, you get to process that information and keep the information from books, way better compared to doing a YouTube video. So yeah, that's one of the benefits of reading. You get to gather that information better. But okay, there's a lot of physical benefits to reading. Like you have better concentration throughout the day, or you have better clarity. You can focus on your studies. But as I said, one of the most important things, one of the most important things I get out of reading is the constant habit. Having a habit of actually reading, or reading at the same time each day. Like for me, when I read, it's at night. It's like 9 p.m., like maybe like 30 minutes before I read. And when I read during that time, my brain pretty much says, you're reading then. And during that time, I'm able to like shut all my brain off, on the worries of my life and on the difficulties of my life, and actually focus on the thing that I'm learning right now. So right now, I'm reading a really good book, a finance book. It's called Millionaire Fast Lane. So it's a really good book. I really recommend it to people who want to become rich, who want to gather wealth. There are many ways in this world to gain information, but books is one of I would say it's slow. Yeah, it's slow, but you're able to gain and keep that information that you have from books longer. And yeah, that's one of the best reasons for reading books. This might be different for other people, but for me personally, I read books, number one, to shut my brain off and stop overthinking about my problems. But number two, I also use it for processing information the better way. So I can use it during my podcasts, or I can use it, to really help the SS or the people around me to give advice. Yeah, those are the two ways I read, or the two reasons why I read. And if you guys have any reasons why you guys read, or you guys have a clear, I read books because of this, then put it in the comments below, because I'm very interested on how you guys are reading books. So why did I talk about this? As hardships comes, there's going to be times where you just want to lay down. You just want to, rest. You don't want to go against these problems. And that was me a couple days ago. But getting up and doing the things you need to do, learning, and getting back into that routine is very important. And one of the best ways Providence people can really, I would say the best way Providence people can really show to other people that Sanzenim and this history is the best, is to make ourselves, is to improve our, improve our knowledge in the Bible, but also improve our life, be clean. Don't our relationships are very important, and because all of that reflects Sanzeim, all of that reflects this history and how this history is perceived. So I just want to say, use reading the best way you can. You might use it in a different way, but reading is such a powerful tool to learn, but to also really improve your life in a drastic way. Yeah, so that's what I had for you today. Today I'm in Gumsan. Korea is getting really warm. It's like 20 degrees, 25 degrees Celsius every day, and it's getting pretty crazy hot. It's almost like I walk around 1 o'clock, and it's almost like mid-spring, but it's like the start of March. God, it's crazy here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. To everyone who's improving and becoming one with the Lord, let's walk this path together. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
And thank you so much, Daniel, for another wonderful episode of Until the End. And yes, it's talking about the importance of reading, and I hope you guys are inspired to start reading even more. Yes, read your Bibles, read the Word, but there are many amazing and awesome books out there that you can start reading too, whether it's on leadership, whether it's on love, whether it's on God. There's lots of things out there, okay? So now that we have that done, let's get to our final section today. And of course, this is one of the big things happening this week because it dropped last Friday, which is a Netflix documentary. And I'm going to go into episode 3 today, and I think it's very, very important for all of us to understand what content is in there and also what we can gain from it, or the things that we can automatically say, okay, we already know about this. And if I'm going to be super honest with you guys, like I said in episodes 1 and 2, the vast majority of all the documentaries based on old witnesses, old testimonies, and most of them and a lot of them, either the charges are dropped, they're dismissed, they're debunked. It's all there. So I hope that we can all understand this, that it's something that we need to understand first while we're listening to it. And then I'll give you my view at the end of it, okay? So let's get into it. And one thing I do want you to know is, as you can see from my all my 3 recordings on episode 1, 2, and 3, I don't put any music in the background. I just don't want there to be any influence whatsoever, right? It's a very serious topic, and I don't want the music to come in to play a role. I just want you to listen to the facts, listen to the things that are there, and then you can discern a lot better. So the beginning of episode 3 starts with the 2007 arrest, right? And there are some interrogation snippets without any context, and it does show something covering his mouth, but honestly, we have no idea what's going on. It's such a short snippet, a very, very short snippet of it. There's no context to it, and they just keep repeating that same thing over and over again. I'm not sure why they do that. It just looks I think that if you take anything that was happening, and we don't know how serious anything was, right? Imagine, let's just say, guys, after being tortured and beaten over there in Korea or whatever, in China and stuff, and you're going through, say, anxiety attacks, would anyone look at that and laugh and say, oh my gosh, they're having an anxiety attack, oh, what an idiot? No, we have no idea what's going on. There's no context whatsoever. It's just a snippet of a video. And when you watch it, it's it's really, really unfair. Imagine if people, haven't you guys had that before when you and your friends are, take videos or pictures of each other, and then for some odd reason, you're just in the wrong position, or your facial expression is so funny, and then they zoom it and then they snapshot it, right? And you look at that and it's that's so unfair, right? It's I totally wasn't like that kind of thing, but you just caught someone in that moment, right? So I'm going to say this too, is I would say this about anything that is just snippets and snippets of it, right? Very, very short. And they repeat it 5 times during the episode. And I didn't really find that very, of course, it's not flattering for Sunsteam, but also on top of it, it's not really evidence for anything. It really isn't, because if it was evidence, then they would be able to use it right away, but they're using it for a narrative that they want, right? Then it goes into Maple, the girl from Hong Kong, and, her life growing up. Talks about her life when she was born. She's born in Canada, and then, she grew up and then went back to Hong Kong, then went to Korea and stuff like that too. And then after, then after talking about her life growing up, then it goes to the 2008 arrest and trial, right? Then it shows like Sunsteam coming out of the airport, and then it says that there was some audio from 2000. There's some audio from like it's a 2000. We're already at 2008, but the thing I didn't like here is because they would go back to audios of other witnesses way in the past where these have been dismissed, and basically they're no longer really useful anymore because they're from the past. But they would play something like, "Oh, I can't say anything because Sunsteam said he's going to kill my mom," or his bodyguards are threatening to kill me, kind of thing, right? However, I do think in that situation, they could think in a certain way. Like, for instance, if you were a bodyguard and you really were on Sunsteam's side, and then you see someone who's just totally like saying stuff against him, like I could see them being upset and angry about them. But Sunsteam's gonna go out and threaten and kill people. That's obviously what do you call conjecture, or that's their speculation. They don't know if that actually happened, right? And there's no proof about that either. So it's kind of like, that's why they're using a 2000 audio. And you see how they're kind of moving to 2008, then back to 2000 with a lot of the stuff that's been dismissed, right? And disproven. And they can't even go to court because there's not enough evidence, or the evidence is false. But they go back and forth like, hey, look, see? And then they'll use a 2000 audio to kind of like support, hey, guess what happened? 2008 arrest, trial, and footage, right? And Like I said, that footage of him covering his mouth, I don't understand why they keep showing that shot over and over again. And then they said he's foaming at the mouth, and we're looking at that and we're like, no. When you look at it, he's not foaming at the mouth, and there's nothing there. Maybe, there's nothing there to show that. He's covering himself, but we're not sure what that means, right? So for me, especially when you look at the same thing that happens, remember I told you guys yesterday about are apostates reliable? And that I posted that on the link below. You can read that too, but it's very hard to take people whose entire life is to defame or to go against Sunsteam, anti-Sunsteam people. It's very hard to take them seriously because they're going so overboard, right? And they're even admitting that they're slandering. They're admitting that they're backstabbing or whatever it is, right? Through an actual, through a letter that's signed and notarized, right? So when you look at that, it's like, it's very hard to take them seriously in the things that they're saying, right? And then when we go to the court trial, now this is something that's very, very interesting because a lot of people will ask me, oh, what's happening right now, right? Well, if you watch episode 3, the same thing happened in 2008, where there is an old pastor, one of the first 5 to come. We'll call him KGC, Kim Young Chun, right? He's one of the pastors there that's testifying. And he says he was confused by Sunsteam denial of being Messiah, right? He was confused by it. And a lot of people that have talked to me, they're all wondering like, well, what's going on here? And I was like, well, that is what we heard. I told everyone like, no, we've heard this before in 2008, right? So here's the interesting thing. When you look at repeating history, 2008, that same thing happened, what is happening today, but they, like say someone came to this history after the trial, say they came in like 2015, right? 2016, 2014, whatever it is, there's no confusion, right? But at that time is the same as this time. So you can look at repeating history and start to begin to understand why these things happening, right? So this is all what we went through in 2008. So when you hear it now, this is why a lot of us who have been here from 2008, we're not surprised. We understand what's going on, right? So if you look at what happened in 2008, when Sunsteam, said the same thing he's saying today, and then life goes on after the trial, and then when a lot of the new people came in from 2010 and on, you guys never were confused, right? So it's like, oh, there's something happening that I'm not quite sure of, and this is the first time experiencing Sunsteam talking like this, but we've seen it before, so I'm wondering what that means. And that would be a very mature approach to look at it. Right? The mature approach would be, It's like, oh my gosh, what's Sunseem saying today? What did he say in this week's Sunday message? Oh my gosh. And then you're like, wait a second, he's never said that before. And the answer is no, he said it. And if you watch episode 3, you'll see it. Yeah, it happened 2008. Oh, what's interesting about 2008? Why did he say the same thing 2008? Well, what's the similarities of now and 2008? Right? And then the next question would be, is it right? Is it the right thing to do? And then I would suggest you guys to look back at early Christian history, right? Start reading up on that history, what happened when it was heavy persecution back then, right? And this is when we're able to get a better idea and a better view, right? And this is why I've talked to many people when they get confused, especially about that area. They're like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense now. Okay, that makes more sense. And that's something that I do think that people should be talking to their leaders and understanding, oh, what happened before? Oh, why was it like this? What's the reasoning for it? Why did Sunseem say this, right? Instead of, oh my gosh, I'm so confused. And then people just like kind of burst and explode like, what? Oh, I'm so, you don't want to ever get yourself into that emotional panic. You always want to sit down, and if you don't have an answer, don't freak out, but just sit on it and say, okay, something's going on. Let me go ask some questions, right? So a lot of you guys are thinking like, oh yeah, that's how I felt, is when Sunseem said this in the Sunday message, which is most likely going to be everyone from after 2010 who came to this history after 2010 will probably be a little bit confused by it, right? But if you guys, like I said, you guys could talk to me, like I understand what happened then too, okay? And then after that, it goes into Sunseem being in prison, 10 years in prison. And then after that, it goes back to Maple. And Maple said she never saw the news. Sunseem told her not to see the news, which he told all of us too, right? It's all for protection, right? Of course, now I think that it's better for us to be in the know. But, back then, very, very, to protect everyone so that no one gets affected emotionally seeing those things. And then it goes back to Kim Young-chun, one of the former pastors in this history, and he talks about the numbers 1178. So we all understand that too. And Sunseem's birthday, 316. And then it goes back to Maple, and she took, she went. It talks about her taking swimsuit photos, took pictures in swimsuits, and then it shows a picture that he signed, right, when she's in a one piece, and then it says that if there were a woman that he liked, he would tell them to come visit him in prison. And when you guys see, I don't know how many of you guys have actually been to the times where Sunseem is meeting people in prison. I've been there 4 times. And you're always going with 4 to 5 people or 3 to 4. You'll never go alone. Because there's just only once a week. If it's once a week, you're not going in alone, right? So I was there several times, 4 to 5 times, and the way that it's depicted in the documentary is wrong. You don't get to see Sunseem face to face. You cannot hold this. Like Maple talks about her going into the prison and meeting him one-on-one and holding hands with Sunseem. When you go to the actual place, and I'm sure many of you out there who have been to meet Sunseem inside the prison, there's a glass between you, and you have to talk through a mic. Like, you can't touch each other. It's not intimate. And even that, looking at that, I was like, that's so false. And when you look at that, it creates more of an emotional narrative that, oh my gosh, they were touching hands and this. And I'm like, you can't even do that. The way they do it in the prison is you're behind a glass wall. You're looking through glass, like thick glass. You can't even hear him directly. It's through a microphone. You can't touch. So when I saw this was also false. But, it obviously gives off some type of feeling, right? And then there was then it went back to Maple. So I'm just going to say that there's a lot of things that are false about this documentary. It's not right the way that they did it. And then Maple, it shows her in her apartment near the prison, and she said that from far away she could see Sunseem writing her name on the wall, and she was moved and she cried. Okay, so I wasn't there. I can't deny that type of thing. I can't even deny because I've never seen the apartment. Can you see the place where Sunseem is? Can you see Sunseem? And for me, honestly, I have no idea. So I have nothing to say about that, but that doesn't prove anything either. And then 2018, it goes into the release, right? And it's really interesting how they used footage from 316, the first one when Sunseam came out, and they showed Sunseam rebuking everyone. I was actually there. And I was in the group where he was rebuking the leaders, like why aren't you guys clapping, or why aren't you guys more like saying amen, right? And when Sunseam was rebuking it, it was scary. And I couldn't figure out why they showed it. Like, they're just showing unflattering parts about Sunseam, but I was there. And the reason he was so upset, it's like, you guys should be so much more grateful and thankful for 316, right? I'm out. God is watching us. He was more upset because God was watching us, right? And we're not really responsive to it. So when I was there for that, it was a scary time, but it was kind of weird for me to look at the 2018 release and then it shows Sunseam getting very upset. And I was like, why would they show that? Like, and it's, obviously it's to show a certain part of Sunseam, these unflattering parts of Sunseam, right? And I would say it would be no different than someone walking in on Jesus who was clearing the temple courts and yelling and clearing tables up, whipping the animals out of the temple and turning tables over. Like, that is unflattering. If that was the only thing you saw about Jesus, what would you think, right? They're not showing the times he's healing. It's not showing the times where he's like so graceful and loving and people are just so moved and inspired by the word, right? It shows Sunseam singing. I'm not sure why it's showing that. And then it shows like Maple singing with Pastor Joan, but you can't see Pastor Joan, but you know it's her. So it's just, yeah. It was quite interesting just to see some of the footage they put in. I'm not sure why they did that, right? And then, well, they're trying to show Sunseam in an unflattering position or kind of showing the narrative kind of thing, right? So then it talks about Maple talking about how exhausted she was to sing. And honest, I'm going to let you guys know too that I was someone until the point she went like she went offline and then she went to start to slander. I was talking to her until that point because I was actually helping her with a YouTube channel she wanted to start, and she was going to do it on my MSD channel, and it was going to be teaching Korean to people how to greet Sunseam and stuff. So, it's kind of like, well, that's, she was getting ready to make a channel on that, and she was telling me she was exhausted by singing, but she wasn't complaining like, oh, I told Sunseam, and then Sunseam told me to go announcing, and she was very happy about this type of thing, right? So it's kind of exactly what she said here. And then she became an announcer and a missionary, but her goal was to become a missionary and wanted to evangelize a lot. And that's what she told me too. So I believe in that also. And then it went into this other girl from Australia. I believe her name is Frances. In the place, I think her name was Amy, I think. Her story came in on this too. And then it goes back to Maple talking about how she prayed for hours a day just to love Sunseam better. And then she talked about how she rode in a cart with Sunseam because it was promised earlier letters years ago. I'm just not sure why she was getting into this, but I think it's showing how she was, I don't know what the right word is, that how she came to believe more deeply in Sunseam, I guess. I think that's what it was. And then it went to the accusation, and it was basically one day she was called by Sunseam to come to her, and there was someone else there that was sleeping, and told her to sleep next to Sunseam. However, we all know that Sunseam sleeps alone. Like, that's something that's an absolute, especially after 2018. And then she said that she was assaulted with his hand first. And then she called, I'm assuming it's Pastor Joan, but I'm not sure. So we don't know exactly who it is. Then she called whoever it was that told her to sleep next to Sunseam. And then the basic words that she was saying was, oh, Sunseam is treating you and loving you so well. But Maple was saying, oh, this is too hard for me. I want to leave. And then that person said that they left her there on purpose and gave her an opportunity. And then Maple goes into her second accusation, and then from that point she said she was sexually assaulted like fully at that time. And then after that instance with Sunseem told her that she was raptured and her spirit is big and bright. But of course, for all of us, we all know that rapture already happened, and it's not like he was never saying it. He was already telling people, most of us are already raptured anyways, right? And that was done in 2015, but at that point, she's saying that in 2018-19, she's saying that after doing that, she was raptured. And then she continued to do it because she was afraid to go to hell, and then she thought it was her own fault. And then she said she tried to kill herself, and there's pictures of this too, right? So I don't want to talk about this. Committing suicide is a very, very serious topic. And I do think people who were there, who were taking care of her at that time, that do testify about this. It was obviously not for this reason, but she was doing it for another reason, where if you find out the other reason, you're like, oh my gosh, right? So the insinuation here is that she tried to kill herself because of what Sunseem was doing to her. But you can talk to people who were directly talking and helping her. And it's going to come down to what do you believe, but when the people were helping her, it was about something else. And I don't want to talk about this because I do think it's more of a private matter. So, and then it goes back. So then after that, it goes back to the story of Frances, the girl from Australia. And then she talks about her instance, how Sunseem, assaulted her sexually. And then Maple was there too, she said. And then Frances also said that it was, she didn't realize it was a crime, or, she said she was like multiple times, like dozens of times too. Then it goes back to Maple and says, she's like, someone was asking her, all these stars are getting assaulted this way, but how come not you? And then she realized, it's happening to a lot of people. So then she goes back to Hong Kong first, right? And her friend calls her up and says, hey, these stars are getting assaulted like this. They're all accusing da-da-da-da-da. What about you, right? And then she was told to leave quietly and go back to Hong Kong. She went to go see her parents. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've been in contact with her even from before that, right? So during that time, she even did an interview. During that time when she first went back to Hong Kong, she did an interview for the Morning Star Drive. So if she's going back for that reason, I'm not sure why she'd want to do an interview, right? But yeah, so for me, something doesn't click here. And when I talked to her, I was talking to her the entire time for like over a year, right? Especially about going to start a YouTube channel. And we're going back and forth. And then she talks about another time she was back in Korea, and then Sunseem did it to her again when she was sick. And then it goes into the audio recording. Okay? So this is very interesting. This is the one that everyone, like a lot of people are telling me that this is the one that's going to destroy everything, and everyone's going to be, you're going to realize this is it. It's the audio recording. So when I first listened to the audio recording, it's actually the same audio recording I talked about in episode 1. Remember that? I said, yeah, there's some in the intro to it, there's some audio recording, and it totally doesn't sound like Sunseem, right? And then when I heard this again, it was the exact same one, and I would say like 90 some odd % of people are like, no, that doesn't sound like Sunseem's voice. We're talking like 90 some odd. Actually, I've only heard I've heard one person who said it's Sunseem, but the vast majority of people I'm talking to are like, no, that doesn't sound like him. And it's very, very interesting because I can use that as, but that can't be my reasoning why I don't trust the audio recording. Like, can that really be the real reason for it? Could that be the reason for it? And the answer is absolutely not. Right? You can't base it on, I feel that's not Sunseem's voice. Like, that is not a reason to. And this audio recording is something that is controversial in the court trial. So what do you need to know about this voice recording? Well, number one is they're trying to put it into the court as evidence. But what's the problem is forensics are going into the audio file and it's inconclusive whether it's edited or not. They can't tell. And the biggest reasoning is because they don't have the original phone that goes with it. She changed her phone, so this phone, they can't tell if it's an original or not. It's inconclusive. They don't know. The forensics can't even go in to find out, is this the original or is this edited or not? So that's why they're talking like, hey, this is something that we don't even know. And if you guys look at what's happening these days, is there are tons of fake audio recordings out there. And you know who it's created by? It's created by like Chat GPT and AIs. It's a regular, normal thing that people can make someone else's voice, right? And you can create it where it's on YouTube right now, where there's saw this on Joe Rogan, where the Chat GPT, the AI, made a voice of President Biden talking about girls with big butts, and it's his voice. So what they do is they'll put a picture of Biden and then they'll put the voice on it, and everyone thinks it's Biden. But that's how sophisticated anyone can get this type of technology, right? Is it Sunseem's voice or not? It doesn't really matter whether I think it's his voice or not. It's not, I'll say it's weird because Sunseem's voice is muffled, but Maple's voice is very clear. Right? So when I look at it, it's like, that shouldn't matter. That's not evidence. The real evidence is forensics can't even tell you that it's edited or not. It's inconclusive because you can't tell it's the original because the original phone is not there. They took it from the cloud. We have no idea. Right? So if we want to authenticate it, it's going to be based on, once again, is it real or not? She'll say it's real. And the other side, the defense, will say it's not real. And then what does it go down to? And that's why, for me, the audio recording is untrustable. It's inconclusive. They're still arguing over it. The prosecutors are saying in the Supreme Court, there was one time where they used a secondhand voice where it wasn't, where it was allowed. But if you look at the circumstances today, it's so easy to make these fake recordings too. It's inconclusive. Is that really him or not? There's always going to be doubt there. Right? That's why the real questions we have to ask is it authentic? Has it been authenticated? Is it altered? Is it edited? Well, the voice doesn't sound like him. Can there be a voice expert that comes in and says, oh, yeah, that's his voice? So that's why even for me is when I looked at the audio recording, people said that's the big one. I'm like, no, that's totally not it doesn't make any sense to me that's supposed to be the thing that's supposed to break the entire case. It'd be much better if it was the original, authentic, and it was like, that they could say conclusive, authenticated, it is a real audio, and then they have to figure out, is it Sunseem's voice or not? So for me, I was just like, how could that, it's so inconclusive. It's absolutely inconclusive, right? Looking from a lawyer's perspective, is that enough? And I'm like, no, it's not. Even the forensics say it's inconclusive, and they're still arguing over, can you even really use that as evidence if it's inconclusive? And we don't even have the original phone. It makes no sense. So, and then last but not least, the last parts of it, I think, is it goes into the 2018 press conference. I think it's 2018, the 316 when she made, was that 2019 then, right? The press conference 2019, I believe, or 2020? It was fairly recent, right? Maybe 21. And it just shows Maple being sick before the press conference. And then at the very end, there's former witnesses from the past that have all been dismissed and debunked and whatever it is, that they say they feel bad for not saying it first, and they feel that Maple is very brave. So it becomes more of an emotional thing at the very end. And then it shows CGM's response. And then it has Maple punching a bag, and showing that Maple is drawing to manage her anger and stuff like that too. So, in the end, they made it a very compelling piece. Okay, so that is episode 3. So what is going to be my final view on this? Like, what's my final view? What do I really think about the whole thing is? I think it was produced very, very well. And the flow, like a lecture, the flow is very good because it goes into the history and it talks about all the different accusations that happened in the past, right? So it builds a big picture of these are all the accusations in the past. These are the people all talking about these things that they said, yada, yada, yada. And then it starts to build where it builds a narrative where everyone's going to say, oh my gosh, this has been something in the past. Oh, what happened here? What happened here? And it keeps moving and moving forward, right? And then at the very, very end, it goes into Maple's accusation. And then her big thing is the actual audio itself, right? And, excuse me, I do think the flow of the documentary is good. It's a very good flow. The flow is like, they want to build like, hey, this is what we've seen and heard about in the past. And it kind of helps people to see that, wow, this is not just a one-time thing. And then as it moves forward and forward, it goes into Maple, and then it goes into her life as a child, which is great because, people are very inspired and moved by stories. So it talks about her story being young, being raised in Canada, moving to Hong Kong, and then, coming into Providence, all these different things. And then it goes into her story. And then from there, in the end, how is she coping with it? And then all the other the alleged victims of the past were saying, "Oh, she's so brave." And then by the end, it becomes an inspiring, uplifting thing for, especially with women of these days, like a Me Too movement kind of thing, right? Now, so for that, I'll say that's a very good flow. And as a lecturer, I'm like, wow, that's actually, they did it really well in that sense. The thing that makes it very, very difficult for me is, if they wanted to, for me, from my point of view, to make it more compelling, I wouldn't have gotten all the witnesses from the past. Especially like, I went over episode 1, 2, and 3, and we're talking about these people like, oh, nope, that's dismissed. Charges were dropped. They went to the hospital, and even the doctor said they were not sexually assaulted. Nope. In this one, too, they weren't kidnapped. There was no beating. We saw the police report on this, so that's false, too. So all these things that we're seeing false is like, wait a second. Let me ask you guys a question like this, okay? If someone is trying to tell you something, like something really, really serious, and then as they're telling you something that's really serious and they're telling you it's true, they start bringing up things that are false to you to prove their point. How much would you believe what they say? So imagine they start saying to you, and then they said this, and when you check it, they're like, nope, they didn't say that. And then they said this. Nope, they didn't say that either. And then they said this, and you're like, no, I already know this. They didn't say this either. And then this is what happened to me. Then for me is just my gut reaction in the beginning would be like, if I know that all these things in the past are talking about is false, then why would I believe everything that you put at the end? Now, remember this coming from someone who already knows the difference. That's why I went through every single one. I went through all the investigative journalists, the people went to the police stations, reports, all these different things to show you that, yeah, that's not true. This is not true. This is not true. This is not true. These charges were dropped. This happened here. This happened here. And no, the hose going into her private parts, her belly was filled with water. All the doctors said, impossible. It cannot happen. This person said sexual assaulted. They went to the hospital twice. Both of them said, not sexually assaulted. So when we look at this, we're like, well, okay. So you're building this story on other parts of history that are not even true, right? Or still going by the media narrative that are saying he's this, this, and this, when it's already proven a lot of, Sunsi ran away 1999, but then we look at the facts is, nope, charges were dropped, and he was lawfully going overseas. And whenever he came back, they only asked about what was he doing overseas, and that's it. But the media narrative is he's fugitive on the run. That's like the media narrative. So a lot of these things I looked at and I was like, man, it would have been, for me, it would have been so much more convincing if they weren't using witnesses from the past that were already cases dismissed, not enough evidence, or the evidence was false. And like when they remember there was like that one point where Sunsi was in China being interrogated, and it's like, why did you hug those 3 women when you were naked? They weren't naked, but you were naked, kind of thing. And he said yes, right? Honestly, from the Chinese interrogation for 10 months there, beaten, tortured, interrogated in that way, and then in the very end, they found him innocent. I don't trust anything from that interrogation for 10 months. And in the end, what did the Chinese government do? Oh, Sunseem, you're innocent. You're free to go. So even that, I'm like, well, what context, what is he talking about? And how much duress is he in, beaten and tortured? What's his mindset at that point? But even in the end, oh, you're innocent. So for me, when I look at all the stuff that happened in China, I'm just like, okay, well, they found him innocent. Even after beating and torturing him, they found him innocent. So for me, it's just like, yeah, okay, let's move on. Right? The only thing that I found that was really so disappointing to me was what members did. Right? The one I would have to look into more is like those videos of these naked girls and stuff like that too. And then the other one was like, beating up KDH's dad. I mean, that's just terrible. It's terrible. Don't know the situation or context. Got to figure that out. But I know that I don't understand what these members are doing. However, we have to take responsibility for it. Does it prove anything? And the answer is no. Coming from a lawyer's mindset, it doesn't prove anything. It proves nothing. And then on top of it, like when you see this, it's just like, from a lawyer's point of view, there is nothing there that proves anything. There just isn't. And I didn't like it using the old, like I think they would have been better off not using the old stuff. Because anyone who is like diligent in looking into things, they'll figure out, oh, well, that was dismissed. Hey, that's not true. Like, what kind of witnesses are these? Like, even some outlandish stuff like with 50 girls a day. That's what Sunseem was doing, 50 girls a day. Tell me that's crazy. Like, that's like outlandish. No wonder a lot of these things were thrown out, right? So when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, man, I could have done much better than this. They really, really could have. And because of the way that they did it, for me, when everyone's saying that this was the big one, for myself, this might sound funny. I enjoyed this. You're like, what? How can you enjoy watching it? Because like going in from a lawyer's mindset and picking things apart, I enjoy that. A lot of you who met me before, I like to pick things apart. I have a very, very legal mindset. That's why it's good for me for lectures. That's why it's good for me when I'm explaining things. I like to pick things apart. And I enjoyed watching it but it was just so easy to pick everything apart for me. Some parts I want to research a little bit more, but so far there's been so much, So for me it was interesting to watch. And I do say, I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you're someone who has no knowledge of all the other different things that happened, all the charges that were dropped, all the court proceedings, all the police reports, that you'll get the official police reports, you're going to get confused and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what have I done with my life? But, I want you guys to be mature about it. Be reasonable, be rational. And when you hear it's like, oh, okay. Oh, that's what happened here. Okay. So let's figure this out too. And when you listen to this, you're like, oh, okay. So that makes sense here. Right? And make sure you check everything you check on the internet, because, you might hear something. What if it's just hearsay? What if it's not the actual police report? If you don't find the police report, what's going to happen? It's not, you can't even say it's true. It's just hearsay, right? So, the one thing that I find also is, how do I know that it's a narrative that they're running? It's mainly because all this stuff was filmed well before the trial. Well before. Right? So, in all the stuff there, no actual real evidence or proof that Sunseem has done anything. And if it's filmed well before the trial, they're just basing it on their own narrative, and they want to paint something like this, that they're even going to all those witnesses from a long time ago, which we also know it's like a lot of it is dismissed and they're not, proven wrong. Misinformation, stuff like that too. So, that's why for me, you want to look at the proof more than anything else. Look at the proof. And even if the proof itself, if all this proof is like, it's not conclusive, maybe you got to look at your life too. Look at your life. Look at the word. What has happened in your life with this history too, right? In the end, it has this, if everything is inconclusive, What's happened to you? When you met Sunstein, what did you feel like? Right? So, or what actually happened during that time? Have you been healed? Have you been, has your life changed? And those are some things that we have to look at also. All right? So there it is, guys. That is the end of going into episode 3. And you got kind of a good idea of what happened in all 3 of those videos. And, leave a comment below what you guys really feel about it. And, I would love to be transparent, but I hope that everyone can be very reasonable, unemotional about it too, and just really think about the evidence part itself. Because that's the part that I look at most, is the evidence. What evidence is true? What do we know for sure about this evidence? What do I know for sure about this witness? What do I know for sure about this testimony? Right? And then to me is like, why would you use it if for sure it's already in the courts that's dismissed, or they had false documentation? Right? Because that happened. That happened, where there was false documentation where someone said they were sexually assaulted, and they brought papers from a hospital, and then Providence people went to the actual hospital and said, where is the report on this person? And when you see the actual report, it's not. It's forged, right? So when you look at this, it's, for me, it's like, Look back at are apostates reliable? Look at that report and see how apostates actually go against their former religions that they left. And you're going to see exact same blueprint of what you see right now. And that's what's quite interesting too. And looking at from a sociologist's point of view, a scholar's point of view, right? So that's what I have so far for now. If you guys want to talk more about it, would love to hear what you guys think. You guys can DM me. Like I said, I'll talk to anyone about this too. And I would love to keep this, very cordial and professional. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's podcast and for the rest of the week. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend. And have an amazing weekend. Talk about your feelings. Talk about what's going on in your life. Would love to hear from you guys too. And then we'll see you guys again on Monday on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star driving.